What's up? Let's talk real estate and stuff here. Brandon's staring at his screen, doing some comps on some mobile home parks, I'm sure.
That's exactly what I'm doing, actually.
It's always a good guess with you. Just me and Brandon this week. Carlos is in Phoenix. If you're at the Limitless event, go say hi to him.
I saw him up there on Instagram. He's posting like crazy,
I know, meeting.
repping IF3 and Carrot up there.
That's right. That's what he's doing. We're trying to say just investor views now that like we only have one version, and it's been God, 3 years since
That's
IF3 came out.
irrelevant. That's irrelevant to me. It's IF3.
Whatever. Okay, sure. Anyways,
IF3. IF3.
I guess that is still the URL you go to log in.
Yeah. Um.
Oh man, how's it
Yeah,
going, Brendan?
Ooh, tell you what.
Yeah,
I'm just tracking these mobile home parks, bro.
yeah.
Tracking these
Learning
mobile home
lots.
parks. Huh?
Learning
I
lots.
am. I find it funny. I was telling you yesterday, I find it funny because I've been into mobile home parks for about a year and a half now, and I bought my first one, what, probably 10
8
months ago,
months. Yeah. Okay.
something like that, whatever. Um, I think it's 10 months from when I got it under contracts, 8 months from when I actually closed. There was a
Time
2 month period in
flies.
between. Yeah. Anyway, and I've just been looking. It took me what, almost a half of a year or more, a year to get to my first park after looking and
Yeah.
talking to so many people. Anyway, and I feel like I know a lot. But I just started posting on Instagram about it, right? Because I was like, okay, like I got to post what I'm doing and what like I feel like I could be the best in the world at. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I've really decided to go double down on mobile home parks. And it's funny because I've been posting for John, I don't know, what has it been, like 2 weeks about mobile home parks where I'm showing me dialing, I'm showing me pulling the data and all this, and I'm getting people. It's just funny. Our demographic of real estate people who they are looking so hard for a messiah in
Right.
anything
Right.
that I
Exactly.
start posting it, and I got people coming to me like I'm an expert, begging me to help them JV deals to all of my buy. I've never once said anything about wholesaling
Like
these
you.
deals.
Right.
Like
Yeah. Like you have a
once,
buyer's list of
yeah.
people just buying mobile home
And
parks
it,
left and
and
right.
listen, one day I hope to. That is so. When I get off the phone, like I'm like, hey, you're not buying. Okay, would you have, or you're not interested in selling? Would you happen to be interested in buying one? So I'm taking notes slowly, and I'm doing it, but I'm not there yet, and I don't hide that fact. So
Right.
when I get on the phone with some of these wholesalers, because I'm trying to put myself out there, I have to explain it to them that like I like, yeah, I've been doing it for a while, but like I can't magically move your $3 million mobile home park. I don't know how I gave you that idea. I was like, I'll possibly buy it if there's financing terms on top of it. But I just find it funny how just after posting for a couple weeks about what I'm doing, and people are jumping on the bandwagon as if like I'm the number one mobile home, and I only own one park, and it's just, you know,
I mean, I think a real estate industry in general kind of promotes that, especially
yeah,
wholesaling promotes
buy it.
that, like, oh my God, you know everything. Bow
Yeah,
down, teach me your
yeah.
ways. I don't think
There's
there's not really anybody out there doing mobile home parks, is there?
exactly,
Yeah, that's
which
the
is
that's
why
the
I was
thing.
like,
That's why they're latching onto you. They're like, we don't have a messiah in this realm of wholesaling.
what book was that? Shit, I forget what book it was. It's gonna come to me when we're not on the show. And I know Alex Hermosi really preaches it too, but like I had fuck, now it's killing me. I had to come to Jesus where I was like, what can I be the
Mm,
best at? You know what I mean?
mm-hmm,
Like, what is my one thing that I
mm-hmm.
could do? And I brought it into mobile home parks, and I was
Yeah.
just like, bro, like this is it. You know what I mean? Like I'm just gonna go in on this. And especially after I paid Tyler that huge assignment fee, good for him. I was like, what's the difference if I just paid myself an assignment fee? My investors gave two shits. They didn't question it. They didn't
Mm-hmm.
care.
And yeah, you're the one
Why
sourcing the deals now.
why
So yeah.
why can't I do it? So that's kind of where we went with it. But I by no means know everything. The only knowledge I gain is from every single day talking to park owners and valuing
Doing the
deals.
thing.
Yeah,
Doing the thing.
valuing the deals.
Yeah. Have
And
you go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, have you gotten any of these like help me move this park? And then you look at the price that the wholesaler is attempting to move it for, and you're like, you don't know crap about evaluating this property, this park.
Well,
Is it? Oh,
let's break that down. You don't know crap about valuing this park. You can't say that to them. So like
right.
I was
But we've talked about before, like wholesalers in general, like they come in and they're like they're they're not making the right equations, and so
they're
they're
not.
trying to dispo this deal for
But
something that
you can't
no flipper's gonna take. It's the same
but
thing
they're
happening in
not.
parks.
It is, but the difference is, and it's not the difference. It is happening that way. The problem is because they wholesale other things, it is hard for me to try to explain to them why they're wrong because I get a lot of, oh yeah, right. Oh yeah, right. Uh-huh, exactly. I was like, well, when you put in this, well, I have a calculator. I put it. I'm like, bro, like I have made, literally, I have built my amortization tables, my refi tables, all of it myself.
Hmm.
Googling formulas. I was like, there's no way you have a mobile home park valuation tool. And people will be like, well, I have my valuation calculator. I have a multifamily calculator. I'm like, multifamily
Different.
apartments is a lot different than multifamily mobile home parks, but you can't tell that to people like wholesalers when they call
Yeah,
because they
yeah,
know everything about wholesaling deals, but they don't know a lot about mobile home parks, but they don't want to be taught. They just want to get paid, is what
right.
I feel. Um,
Yeah.
like I'm talking to one guy now who really does want some help just moving his park, and I was like, bro, like I'm willing to help you. I don't know if I can move it, but I can help you put together a package that'll help, and I'll give you the right questions that you can ask to make sure you have all the info. Um, but yeah, I think to answer the other part of your question, it's like the difference between wholesaling deals and miscalculating it versus wholesaling a park and miscalculating it is hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars worth of difference and a down payment that goes along with it.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
I don't understand it. Like if you don't know you have the buyers to move it, why are you trying to like take a park down or a huge
Because
complex
it
like
looks like a great assignment fee, right? Like that's
yeah.
five single family, 5 to 10 single family homes, depending upon the park.
Bro, so I got one, and I'm not naming names, but they're very, very good wholesalers of single
Hmm.
family. And they bring me this deal where it's like, I'd have to go look it up, but it's like 10 or 12 mobiles or some shit like that. They're all old as fuck. And it's pulling in like 8K in rental income, and they want like $800,000 for it, like 799. And so like
Sit in the
I was
middle
like,
of downtown somewhere.
let's just do the math on that, right? So without expenses, it's already at 10%. And
Right.
on mobile home parks, you're running just depending like a 40 or a 40% expense ratio, a 55 expense ratio. So you're keeping anywhere from 60 to 45% of your money. I was like, bro, like this is, I was like, this is like a five cap. And they were
Hmm.
marketing it, I think, as like a 7-8 cap because they don't understand like the maintenance on a park, like park owned is different. And you have to calculate vacancies. And I was trying to run the numbers with them, and they're still trying to move it. I still get shopped this deal emailed, and this has been like 3 weeks now. And I
Oh,
tried
jeez.
explaining one, you have no details on the infrastructure of the park. And I felt like when I was trying to explain it to them, it was just like kind of like trying to tell a teenager to do chores. They just were like over their head rolling their eyes at me. And I was
Hmm.
like, you have no pictures of the infrastructure. You have no details on the utilities. You have no details on like the improvements to the actual park itself. You have no aerials. Like you have nothing here. You just put together, I have no Excel sheets. You didn't do any calculations for me. You're not showing me anything other than what you would with a wholesale. Here's the purchase. Here's the rents. It's kind of like selling a duplex. Here's the rents.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here's this, and here's the leases, and you can get it up to here.
Right.
And I'm like, well, I probably could get it up to there, but look how old these fucking mobiles are. How much capex am I going to have to spend? And you're selling it to me at a five cap, and there's no terms. So I got to
Oh,
spend
really? It's no creative.
800K. Yeah, I got to pay 800K cash to get this thing to then put all the money into it. And that's why they can't move it, but they're not understanding that. And so
Mm.
that's what I've decided. Like today, I made a bunch of posts about it because like I've gotten multiple wholesalers sending me deals and they're just wild. And it's like, so I was like, I just got to talk about this. You have to take into consideration your buyer's purchase. How is
Yeah.
that buyer going to take this deal down? It'd be one thing taking a deal down all cash if it's stabilized
Hmm.
and maybe the cap rate was decent and they're like, I could stash my money here and this is going to pay off. But why am I going to take down a six cap or a five cap for 800 or $1 million when I could leverage that million and buy 4 different parks with
Right.
200K down each or 250K down each, and I can buy like 4 $1 million parks with leverage. Why would I buy your one park? And so people aren't thinking like that.
No, they're just thinking of what they want to make.
Yeah. So you want me to share my screen?
Yeah, let's do this.
Let's see. How do I share my screen, John? Entire screen. So I was going to share like a little calculator, and this is still a work in progress, right? Like I've been editing this for how I kind of do things. So I have an example here. So I have a 92 unit park I'm looking at, right? And the guy wants $3 million. Okay. So I'll do two different. I have like multiple offers because when I talk to sellers, I build multiple offers at the same time to see where my seller financing deals could come in. So on this, let's just say you're going to have anywhere from a 30% down payment, right?
Yeah.
To 20% down payment. And
Okay.
so you got to add your closing cost. I do a minimal capex, which on a park this size could be large, but there's never not going to be capex, right? Because if you're going to want wholesalers and realtors come in and say you could do value add, but in order to do that, right, you can't just increase rents. You have to value add to the actual park itself to warrant your increase in rent. So
Sure.
50K to syndicate the deal, minimum 15K syndication fee to get all your SEC docs and to do all that. And then you figure
Lawyers are
like an
expensive.
acquisition fee, right? And for a $1 million park, I do like 5%. So that's just what it is. But look at this. So here's offer one, right? So if I'm doing this and I'm at $3 million purchase price with 900K down, let's do a 7.5 rate right now. Monthly payment of 14,000. Look what that does over here. That leaves me with $2,000 a month.
Jeez.
So you do all that work and you're getting $2,000 a month and a 2.5% cash on cash return on your money.
That's not going to work well.
So it's essentially. So let's do offer two. So offer two, if I only put 20% down, right, at a 7.5% rate, I actually only make $138 a month.
What? Oh, okay. Because
Yeah,
okay,
because the
yeah.
debt, look at the debt payment is eating away at all my NOI.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the other thing. But let's actually go back and say we were back in the.
So does this calculator even assume then? It's not assuming rental rates, right? It's just telling you with this offer what you would have to pay.
This assumes rent rates based on the income. So I put in their monthly income of what they're making.
Okay.
And then what I think personally, and that's per unit rent, what I think they could get up to. And this one has a lot of vacancies. So anyway, this matches their my figures actually matches what they sent over in their due diligence package.
Okay.
But here's what I wanted to get at. So you just saw what it was at today's rate, 7.5%. Let's go back to 2 years ago, 3% rate. Now look at this deal. Now, yeah, I may be buying a 6 or a 7 cap, but now I'm getting an 8 or a 9% cash on cash return with putting 30% down, or even with only putting 20% down, I'm still getting a 10% cash on cash return. Like, and I'm getting a 7. It makes more sense.
Yeah.
See, that's what I've been preaching is like the prices that they want don't make sense anymore when you're sitting here and saying interest rates more than double for these types of deals.
Right.
And if you're going hard money, I mean, that's more like 10% on your hard money, maybe 9.5%.
It's negative.
And look I'd be losing money. So then what they try to do is sell you on the pro forma, but it's like
What's pro forma mean for us non-real estate?
What it's going to do. So essentially, my 36K becomes 46, and I base that on like what could happen in a year. So if you look, like the first year I have a pretty high maintenance reserve, but then by year 2, I'm assuming I've stabilized, spent all my capex, repaired all the shit that the previous owner has been putting off because people don't want to bother the long-term owners because they're just happy to stay at their low rent rates. But once you start charging rent, they start calling you up about all the little things. So I
Yeah.
figure I lower that down, so I start turning into a 40% expense ratio instead of a 50.
And so your
But
vacancy, I'm sorry, you talked about it before. I just want to get clarity. Your vacancy budget assumes, so that's saying like how much
5%.
5% of
That means
your monthly
of me,
income will not be sending you money because it's vacant.
yeah, of what
Okay.
I assumed would be my monthly income. So in this example, I'm assuming 100% occupancy. So I'm assuming I'm going to stay around 90%, 5% occupancy on average throughout the whole year.
So that's like what, four and a bit units, like not occupied at any given
And,
month.
and any given month, all month,
Yeah.
every month. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
So, and then, so that's just one deal. And it just goes to show, like, with rates the way they are, like, you have to keep into mind what somebody's doing. So let's just, I mean, it doesn't even, so let's use that one park where we were like 799 and they were getting, let's just say, I forget what they were getting. Let's just say $9,000 a month in income. And let's say you got to put that full 799.
Yeah.
You're doing, let's just say, well, you're going to do hard money. So let's just say you go to a hard money lender to buy this deal and you put 30% down. So what would that be? That'd be $240,000. You're still doing it. You got CapEx. Boom, look at, so on that deal, you'd be on that deal I told you that guy sent me,
Yeah.
you'd be losing
Losing.
money if you went to a hard money lender to try to take that down. The only way it works is all cash. But why am I buying a 6% cap rate deal with all cash that I gotta put money into? But the one of the biggest problems is they're not properly estimating their OpEx, maintenance reserve, and property management fees. Because even if you manage it yourself, like we manage ours and we take a discounted 8% rate.
Okay.
But be wary of anybody saying they have 100% occupancy. It means that it's probably way under rent. And be wary of anybody saying that you can manage it yourself,
Yeah.
not pay anything essentially. Like I had a guy, I was like, "Who's taking care of the yard?" He's like, "Oh, a buddy is." I was like, "Well, that buddy is not going to cut the yard for free for me when I buy it." So
Hmm.
like I take into estimates, like I estimate about $100 an acre for a cut. Um, but anyway,
So going back to the one that's 3 million, what did you say? So what would make what kind of numbers here would make
so
this a bare
so
minimum good deal for
if
you?
this was me, like
Yeah.
I'd be interested in putting, like, let's just say 500,000 down, right? Put a
Hmm.
$500,000 down, come in here and I just try to make my numbers work and I look at it. Oh, I gotta update there we go.
Why'd you do why'd you do 0% interest?
So that's the thing is so I don't talk about interest. I talk about payments. So I'm
Okay.
not sitting here telling the seller I'm going to pay them interest. I talk to the seller about what they need monthly to go along. Like, so would 6,900, would $7,000 a month make sense for you? And then I say,
Hmm.
how long are you going to give me to pay you that?
Hmm.
And I usually, the people I'm talking to are the people looking at retirement or something. And so I've got probably about four different park owners, one of them with two parks, but like four different park owners on the hook where I'm trying to negotiate these terms, and all of them could
Yeah,
say no,
yeah,
all of them could say yes. Odds are maybe one of them says yes. But
yeah.
like you got it, but it's got to make sense for them. So I start with the payment. So I like to be between like a 20 or 30% of my gross rental income. So
Okay.
if you look at this, like this would be a pretty good deal. I'd be getting a 16% cash on cash return overall. Like that'd be
And then
phenomenal.
after you get the pro forma, you'd be 32%.
Yeah.
And so how long do you think it takes for you to get to pro forma?
So my pro forma would be an estimate of what I think I could do in 1 year with my
Okay.
capex. So I'm assuming that within 1 year, I'm probably gonna not make a lot of money year one, is what I figure, because I
Right.
will redrive a lot of the maintenance reserve and over into the park and then try to get it stabilized, take all my hits and lumps up front, lose who I'm going to lose, and repair the units and then get them rented out so I could stabilize within year one. And then maybe going into year two, I have a couple laggers that are kind of trickling out as they decide they hate me.
Yeah. Okay. So is that to you in your kind of deals, the cash on cash return, that's what you're taking in
No, I mean,
no.
like I could give them more on this, like, so I could start playing around with the interest rate. Like I could even do something like this where I'm like, okay, now is
Oh, so
that
you'll
ideal?
give the creative
Yeah, I could give
financer
I could give
interest
the
on.
seller, and I could say,
Hmm.
okay, well, you want more? He's like, well, seven. One of the guys I'm talking to said, I'm making 50K a month. If you're gonna call me, he's like, I'm interested, but if you're gonna call me and say you're giving me 10K a month, I'm gonna
Right.
laugh at you because why am I giving up 50K to only get 10K? So I go, okay, what makes more sense to you? So we were talking about 19, 20K a month for him. So
Hmm.
I was really looking at like how I could make it work for him and if I could.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So like this one now, this pushes me up to about 29% of my gross rental income. And again, this is just how I look at the park. This is just me. Like everyone's got their way of doing it. I'm just trying to figure out as a guy who can't get conventional lending, who doesn't have the experience in parks, I need to build up a portfolio and then I'll be able to really do a lot. Like I'll have more clout. So right now I'm looking for owner finance terms. I'm calling all the parks in the southern states and this is how I'm conversating and I need to be between 10, 20 and 30% to make my returns make sense. And then I need to be able to see that I could get this up to double digits
Right.
later on. And then I want to look at my refi. So when I'm over here, I look at my refi of like where my rents are going to grow to over the time.
Hmm.
And then I come down here and I assume I can refi out at like, what is this one? This is assuming an 80% refi. So I assume that by year 7, I've raised a value to 4.3 million and I can refi out maybe 80%. So I get 3.4 out, pay the seller off the 2 million I owe him. And then I'm left with 1.3 proceeds, pay my investor cash back to them of what I needed for my down payment. And that leaves me with 600K in non-taxable loan income that we could distribute back to our investors so everyone gets their money back and now we ride free and clear into the sunlight, or
Yeah.
whatever that saying.
Sunset.
Yeah, sunset. And then I make sure my payments after the refi still make sense.
Yeah.
So like I had talked to one wholesaler the other day who was trying to get me to way overpay for a park. And I was like, well, bro, like even if I did all this work, it's still only going to be worth like when I refi out $100,000 more than what you're trying to get me to pay. You're asking
Mm,
me to give you all of my future equity today and to do all the work for it just
hmm.
because that's what the owner wants. I was like, that doesn't, how am I exiting this deal? Like, how can I ever refi? I'm going to be indebted to this guy forever. And by the time I finally pay him off, I'll barely have any equity in
Hmm. Huh. So all those kids listening, if you ever sitting through math class and you're like, why should I do that? This is why.
it. Yeah.
So you could become a real estate investor and know how to evaluate a mobile home park.
So, like, here's the deal I got beat out on.
It's going from 26 to 30 pro forma. Is it like what, almost a perfect park?
Yeah, it's a smaller park. So I got beat out by California.
Oh yeah, you were telling us about this deal. So it's
Yeah.
100% you got beat out.
Uh-huh. I mean, he's not picking up for me now, so I'm pretty sure that means that they ended up closing it.
Yeah.
So like he's asking for 775 on this one, I believe.
So he
20.
wanted well, he got a $900 million or 900,000 down payment, and then
1.1.
he's getting
So like I can't compete with that. Like I can't compete with 900K down and then they're financing the $1 million. But if you're looking like that gives them a 4% cash on cash return, it just doesn't make sense. Whereas like me, I was trying to give him a lower down
hmm.
payment, right? Like a lesser amount, and then and I couldn't beat that. The only thing I had was he had originally said he doesn't want to pay taxes,
Hmm.
but I think I was offering like a 5%.
So you were
So
getting 10.
I was still at a 10% cap, which made sense. And I was still coming in roughly around their down payment to try to like I can match what they're giving you every month. What I
Right.
can't match is my down payment, because then that messes up my cash on cash return. And when I'm raising funds, but this is a REIT, they just have money and they have to use their money. So
Right.
they
Otherwise,
could
they'll get
put
it taxed.
so they put 50% down on this thing, you know what I mean? Whereas I could only put like, I mean, I could put more down, I guess. Maybe I could put like 250K down and get 8.8% cash on cash return over like maybe.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to make sure my investors make money. But I couldn't beat out, and that's what really got the guy. I was like, man, but I was like, I thought you said you didn't want to get a lot of cash up front because you had the whole thing paid off. You've owned it for so long, it was going to be a huge tax hit for you. He goes,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but it's pretty hard to turn down almost $1 million check when they're going to give it to you. And then they're going to give me almost like 10K a month. So, I mean, that's a deal I lost out on, but I don't know anyone like a regular investor like me that could make a 4%
Yeah. No,
cash.
that's a big company.
So
And that's so why in that one, by the time it goes to pro forma, is it still only 10%, but you just go 9.28?
well, it's because of how much I'm pulling in. So I've raised my rents. But my debt service stays the same. Does that make sense? So my net income
But
is
why
going
is
up, but my debt service
their
stays the same.
why is the offer to pro forma still
Well,
only,
theirs
is only
goes up
10%
too, but
there?
it's only 10% because there's because of our down payment.
Oh, okay. Math. Got it.
So I'm putting in,
Yes.
I'll probably have cash all in at 322,000. They'll probably have $1 million into their deal after they pay
Yeah.
fees. And I'm assuming fees. I don't know what their fees are. I just have to assume something because it's not like they
Right.
magically pay nothing to take a deal down. But I can't compete with somebody willing to get a 4% cash on cash return, do all the work, and then maybe get a 10% cash on cash return.
Right.
I want to reap the rewards. And maybe I'm being picky, bro. Like, I don't know, but I want to make sure my investors make money. That's kind of what we're in it to do. And I want to make sure that when we refi out, that it
Yeah,
makes
you
sense. So
always have a solid deal. It's never a risky deal.
yeah. And it was funny because the guy was like, I don't know if I told you this, but the guy was like, well, maybe they'll default on it and I'll wind up getting the park back. That's how I bought this park to begin with, is the guy sold it to the guy who originally built it, sold it to somebody out of state. They then mismanaged the shit out of it, as he said. It went to auction and I scooped it up for pennies. So he goes, so maybe I'll get it back one day. And I was like, you wouldn't have to worry about that with me, man, but I
Right.
got you.
Hey, it's hard to say no to $900,000 in your bank account. That was a lot of cool cars for him to buy right there.
Yeah, that's the guy who has cool vehicles and all that
Mm-hmm.
stuff. So there's a lot going on with it, but I just think it's important that everybody understands that the numbers have to make sense on the deal of that basis. And it's so different than apartments is what I'm finding, and I've never taken down an apartment complex, but
Mm-hmm.
it's like it's just not the same. I have 36 individual homes basically.
Right.
You have one apartment or two buildings housing the same number of people with one roof.
Yeah.
One water in line, it's just one main drain going out to your septic. I don't know, but I have 36 individual septics I got to service. I have 20 acres of land. I don't have asphalt. I have all grass I got to mow.
But hey, I like a park looking better than an apartment building.
But the moral of the story, John, is like, we're going to the point to where interest rates going up are starting to affect people.
Yeah. Hey, I heard the Fed didn't raise rates though.
But I heard they're still talking about doing it.
Oh, doing it again or whatever.
Yeah, like it's not over. Like they're like
we'll give them a break this time, but we'll see what happens next.
Yeah, but
interesting.
I mean, these things weren't a problem back then, but it's kind of like sellers with houses. It's like you're waiting for the sellers to realize that the times have changed, and to get those prices, they're either offering terms or they have to say, okay, I got to lower my price.
Yeah. That's why it's more important to find distress now.
Yeah.
The more conditions of distress, the more likely they will.
100%. And like these parks, they will go into distress. Like I made that post the other day looking at some of these guys who own all these units. And I was reading on Bloomberg that guy who bought up a bunch of apartments and like different type of retail spaces back when debt was cheap is now starting to default on the debt, and
Ah,
like people are swooping in for distress. And this isn't a whole different league of these big companies that play in that realm, but I
yeah.
could see that happening with mobile home parks too. There's a
Hmm.
lot more maintenance that goes with it, a lot more hands-on stuff. you know I could see that people who picked them up on cheap debt terms, as their refinancing comes due over the next few years, we could see some of these parks in distress situations.
So does the bank take ownership of them? I mean, I know it all depends on where they got the money, but
Yeah, I was listening to a Grant Cardone YouTube video once, and he was talking about like, and bro, I'm not even at this level. I'm so far removed. One day I want to be at the level where I get a phone call about an asset that's going into distress, and hey, I know you have the money. Can you take this down so we don't have to take the debt? And like to
ah,
get that call, like to be, and so that's what I think would happen, right? Like, and I don't know, but where you have a fund or a REIT or whatever it is who can't manage these parks, who can't refinance them, and they're defaulting on these things. The bank doesn't want them.
right.
I could see them calling Grant Cardone Mobile Home Parks and saying, "Hey, listen,
Nah,
we have these things coming due. We know this is what you do and that you have access to the capital. Do you want
yeah,
to buy these at blank on the dollar?" And I would love to be in that position in the next 10 years.
yeah,
Like I want to be that guy buying these parks.
yeah. That'd be pretty cool.
But
One day when you're on
uh,
your whatever
yeah,
private jet it is,
but
get a
that's how
phone call.
deals are done, bro. That's how
Oh
like
yeah,
those big guys do that. Just like how they divvy up the
especially with
bank.
big assets like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's
It's
what
not
Grant
like
Cardone said happened to him. Like he got a call and he was like, they're like, I know you're buying these assets. Like, take a look at this one. And you got to be like in this.
special little category.
Yeah, like to be that guy or one of those guys that gets
Yeah,
that
yeah.
call, it's like, and that goes back to like only the rich get richer.
Mhm.
Because like to get access to that deal, you have to be wealthy, you have to know the right people, and they have to know your phone number or have a
Right,
connection to just call you
right.
and be like, hey man, like,
Here's this thing I want to talk
yeah,
about.
buy this $100 million worth of real estate from us, please. They're only making that call to a few people.
That's true. Very true.
So I don't know, it'll be interesting what happens over the next couple years.
Yeah, it will be. That's for sure.
But I would the more I do this, John, I was thinking like we gotta have in our software system for
Hmm.
REI Deal Tracker, we're gonna need to put in a special way for tracking mobile home park stuff.
Well, that's the thing, right? It should be able to track any kind of deal one day.
Yeah. When are we going live on that, you think? We going live next week, bro?
Ah, that'd be a dream. I don't think
Because
it'd
I
be much longer than 2 weeks.
because I got one guy ready for beta user. In fact, anybody listening who wants to use our deal tracker for free, we'll give you 1 year free. We need like 10 people. We need 10 beta users into this deal tracker immediately. I'm trying to release it next week. John's saying maybe another week, but basically it's just tracking all of your deal timelines, your money, what you have coming in projected, assigned, all of your dates for your TC, all of the people in the deal, title companies, JV partners, dispo, your employees, your the buyer, all of that stuff is getting tracked with all your KPIs on it. So we call it the deal tracker, REI deal tracker, but we need like 10, maybe 15 beta users who actually have some deals to put in. You don't need to have a lot. We
Yeah,
just
yeah,
need you to have like a handful of deals, maybe a couple that you're actively working that we could put in and you could give us your feedback. And if you're willing to do that, we will give it to you for free for a year.
yeah. I think, I
Just
mean, I do
DM me.
think we're pretty close
DM
to
me
release.
deal tracker. But yeah, go ahead.
We're pretty close to releasing it. I mean, we will be deploying it on Monday, I think.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is like that we don't have the settings yet to go like input the buyers, the JV
Yeah.
partners, all that fun stuff. So that might be pretty quick. I mean, we could probably get people in without the dashboard too. So
The dashboard's going to be key though.
yeah,
So is the mobile app. John doesn't know
either
about that. John doesn't even know that we're going to have a mobile app. I came up with that idea earlier. I was like, Brad, we need a mobile app for the deal tracker so I can look at my profits and assignments and how much I'm making on the fly, and I can just
Well,
pull it up
it's.
on the app.
I mean, we can make it responsive.
I like an app better where I just log in and then boom, there's a
I don't think
little.
you understand how mobile apps work.
I don't. Luckily, my one great thing is mobile home parks, and John's one great thing is software. Combined, we make a great team, but I do not worry about the how of the things. I just, John worries
Just John
that,
worries about that.
John worries
John's
about
been in tech hell for like 3 weeks.
how he makes all of these things come true. He's taken, because it all came from that Excel sheet, but you've done phenomenal working with the developer, getting it all together from the very basic Excel sheet I've been using to try to
Yeah,
turn it into a software because I got sick and tired of the limitations of Excel and all
Excel
the
sucks.
updates you have to do. It
Build software,
does. No software. Software sucks.
except for calculators. They're great for calculators.
They are great for calculators. They are great for calculators because you can't do a lot of that stuff in the software.
No, no.
But yeah, so the deal tracker, tracking all different kinds of deals, let us know. So what else is going on, man? What's going on in the world of Investor Fuse?
Oh man. I mean, you know this, but I'm sure, and sure other people in business know this. Like sometimes you just feel like you're walking around, just putting out fires all day long. It's interesting. Like 3 weeks ago, we kind of started to realize that um, we've been so focused on like building new things that we've kind of put some stuff to the wayside, and kind of forgotten about the user experience. And it's like an interesting transition in software. Like when you get to that point where churn and new people coming in stabilize and like you're able to grow by whatever percentage. Sometimes it's super tiny, but at least you're growing. You're like, okay, like now it's not a case of like I feel like I can add X amount of dollars to our business by building this feature. Now it's like you kind of switch that, and you still need to do it, right? Like you have to keep evolving your software. Not naming any names out there, but there's
Yeah, I know.
software that hasn't changed in a long time, and like that's not a good thing in this realm. But you start to think, okay, well now how do we keep people, right? And we don't have crazy churn, but it's like, can the churn number be reduced? But moreover that, like, are their users just like 100% happy, or close to that
Yeah,
95% happy every day? And so we kind of realized that we're at that state,
yeah.
and so it really made us like switch our brains
Uh,
from looking at like what new thing do I need to release as soon as possible to be like what is not making people happy. And when you kind of jump
what
into
is
that
that?
world,
What is that that's not making people happy in Investor Fuse?
well, there were some bugginess going on with like permissions and browsers and stuff. Like there's a lot of tech
What,
that goes into like you write the code, then it gets like when people log
yeah, yeah,
in,
yeah. But
it's
what
all
other
on the
features?
browser.
What other features?
Oh, features that they don't like.
No,
Well, okay,
features that
hold
you
on.
got
Let
to
me.
improve. Hang on. Just what features do
No,
you think we
I'm
got to
gonna
improve,
finish
Brad?
my story and we'll get to the
Okay,
features.
okay,
Don't you
okay.
worry. And so we started with like the bugs, like what is it that people are annoyed about, and so we've mostly fixed them, and then we have a release coming out in a week, next week, that will fix a lot more. And then I think we only have a total of like 6 bugs left for
Yeah,
that have been reported, which is great. But like in the release coming out next week, we spent a lot of time like looking into how to be proactive, right? So like when Brandon is logged into Investor Fuse and he goes in and something goes wrong, we rely on Brandon currently to come tell us what that problem is. And sometimes that doesn't happen, right? Sometimes Brandon's just going to hit his computer, take his dog for a walk,
yeah.
and come back, restart it, and we would never know there was a problem. So we installed software and stuff to be proactive about that. And so we've kind of now we've made a list, right? So now we've got past the bug stuff. Now we've made a list of like what does need to be improved inside of the application. Like what do we feel like is not working? So analytics is first. So currently our dashboards are powered by an antiquated piece of technology that we don't have in our lists anymore, which means that
So
if you're
dashboards.
a
So
big volume
dashboards.
team, it doesn't load very quickly, and we're missing some KPIs and stuff in that. So dashboards is first. Um, After that is kind of like a little bit more of an internal process, but imports. So like we're allowing people to import data, and it's very convoluted because it's like you got to put this action in this group and this campaign.
Yeah.
and it's frustrating,
Oh,
specifically the users that come
campaigns,
in.
huh?
Yeah,
Campaigns, is that on anybody's list?
that's in the analytics. Sorry, campaign
No,
and
like
analytics and campaigns.
is where we're actually fixing that, where I don't have to scroll through a list of
Channels, yes,
1,000.
channels.
Oh,
Stop.
I've been asking for channels for like since me and John started working together like a few years ago. I was like, bro, because
It's
I was
coming.
doing it today. I'm adding a mobile home park in the investor fuse off of my smartphone dialer, and I was like, all right, and I need to assign a campaign to it, and I'm scrolling. I scrolled up and down my list of campaigns. I'm like, where the fuck is the mobile home park campaign? Because I have so many campaigns. God, when
Well, you would
that's
still have
fixed,
to do it in that
that's gonna
case, but
be
it sums it
phenomenal.
up.
Yeah, but I could click the channel and then pick the campaign. Me and John will work on the UI. Don't worry, guys. I'll make sure it's done. I'll
Cool.
give him some feedback on that. What about
Well,
what about the scorecard? Is that part of the dashboard?
yeah,
Because
yeah.
the smartphone
Analytics.
stuff, I'm having some issues with the smartphone
Their
features.
new
Where
stuff
like
comes out in like a week.
no, it's like the way you guys tag the smartphone. So one of the cool things about InvestorFuse is like you tag your phone number from smartphone into InvestorFuse, so it tabulates how many calls I make in my talk time.
Yeah, yeah.
Problem is like the list of phone numbers. I don't know what's happening. It's doubling, tripling. There's so many more phone numbers in your list that you give me than what I own on smartphone,
Actually,
and
let
I
me
can't
let me put
find.
that
Yeah,
in Jira right now, because actually that
because it's not
reminds me.
tracking. Because like I use the smart dialer, so I'll have like 10 or 15 phone numbers in one campaign dialing. Like,
Yeah,
and it's not. I can't. I've been trying to tag them all to me or to my agent. You know what I mean? Like, and we
yeah.
can't do that. This is
Because
live
now,
bug fixing.
like we actually have a smartphone API. They built us an API so that we can send text. Let's take a step back. Also coming out next week is smartphone texting inside of InvestorFuse. So you'll be able to go in, attach your smartphone account. So anytime you text sequences, campaign autoresponders,
You're out of
individuals,
Twilio.
yeah, you'll switch from Twilio and you'll move to using your smartphone account.
You should call InvestorLift and give them a tip on how to do that.
Oh God.
I hear they're having a lot of problems with their texting.
In great news, smartphone just released in beta. If you're interested, shoot me a message. Compliant buyer texting. So you send your buyer to a website, they put in their phone number, they get the code, they say yes, and now you have compliant buyer blasting. Are you dumbfounded or confused?
I'm finding a way to utilize that in my head.
And he's labeled it broadcasting, so it's not buyer specific. So if you figure out a way to do it for sellers or agents or anything, like you could, it's compliant blasting basically.
Interesting.
Pretty cool. I don't know of anybody else that has compliant blasting right now, like full on permission, because that's what it's all about, right? Is permission to text somebody texting. I'm not talking like how Lead Chirper used to do it, where you have to click the button and
Yeah.
like now this is like full on. He checked with all the Twilio and the FCC lawyers, full on compliant texting, blasting.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It's a pretty cool feature. I haven't seen it in work, but I've been sending a couple clients over him. Okay, smartphone texting coming out next week. And then we have some notes enhancements, auto saving in the notes. A lot of people click out of their notes and
Yeah,
forget
I
to hit the
do.
save button.
You fucked me a few times on that.
Auto saving coming to notes. I feel like there's one other kind of fun thing there. Hold on. I lost my Jira. Let's see. There's one other like feature that is pretty cool.
What?
Successful texting on using this API. So like you sync all your overdue due date actions into a smartphone. You then multi-line dial them. Then you push over all the unsuccessful results into InvestorFuse. Upon us receiving an unsuccessful result, you can send a text message from the number that dialed them inside of the smart dial, because you can dial with like 4 different phone numbers. So it'll use that number to send them a text message.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
that'd be pretty cool. Yeah, there's a lot of cool features coming. Today I was for the shits and giggles, I was using a macro today, and it froze.
Excel.
I was trying to, Yeah, I was trying to use a macro, and I was thankful for REI Op Center and our feature of how like you don't need macros. You can load your raw data, your list data anyway, and the database itself, the system, does all of the organizing and swapping and
Yeah.
owner one, owner two matching and all that. It froze my computer multiple times. I was like, this is why I stopped using macros. Like I was so grateful for REI Op Center stuff. I was trying to go through macros. I'm training somebody on marketing stuff and how to use macros, and I was using one. I'm like, fuck Christ. This thing's like it's a 75K list, and it's already giving this macro some issues. I'm like, this is just like fucking garbage, dude.
Hmm.
So the software has its place in the business to solve these problems. You get the right stack together, it helps.
It sure does. It sure does. Let's see. What else are we doing in investor views? Oh, sequences. That's actually next. I should have mentioned that. So some sequence improvements. The ability to run a sequence without it blocking the action-based system.
Mm.
So you'll be able to trigger automated messages to go out while you're continuing to manually follow up. And then offers / contracts / evaluations will be something we get into after all those things I mentioned.
Yeah.
There's a brand new, well, not brand new, but since we built the current contract integration, which you have, and you knew how complicated, well, you probably didn't know how complicated it was because I set it up for you, but it's a pain in the butt. You got to go through FormStack. You got to have DocuSign. We're going to completely remove having to have any
FormStack.
additional software, and it will all be hosted. You'll be able to upload your own contracts.
Cool.
And use DocuSign.
And use DocuSign, yeah. So I can get rid of my FormStack bill.
And DocuSign, because it will be like they built a SaaS API, DocuSign did, so we'll be paying for it. We might have to introduce something like, your plane gets 20 contracts a month, you need more, you might have to purchase some more contract credits because we will get charged for usage. But at least you won't have to own a DocuSign account.
I don't know if I like that. I like my own DocuSign account.
Well, hey, sorry.
So I can't use your API in my own DocuSign. How's that better? How am I logging into DocuSign then to fix any errors or doing manual?
You do it all inside You do it all inside InvestorFuse. I'll let you know. That's still like a ways down the line. We still have a lot of investigation to do. Maybe we'll make it. Maybe it's amazing and everything we need. I'll pass it by you. If it's not, maybe we'll let you do the like integrate with your own DocuSign or integrate with us.
Yeah, I like that. I like that idea.
The trick with that though is like it's so difficult to pass the information over correctly.
Yeah, but the thing with DocuSign, man, is like watching people view your contract. Seller 1 view it, seller 2. Sometimes with multiple sellers, you need to get into your DocuSign account.
That would all be inside InvestorFuse.
Interesting.
I guess the one kind of interesting thing, right, is like, so some people have complicated contracts, right, and they just keep them in DocuSign
100%.
And it's like, I don't need this inside InvestorFuse because it's just too much.
Yeah,
and like
I do that
4 times I send it a year, I'll just go use it in DocuSign. So it'd be intriguing if we can
like I'm still gonna have to have a DocuSign account, whether you do this or not. I can't get rid of mine because I have contracts, and plus I got dispo contracts, but it's like and addendums, and so I'm not getting rid of my DocuSign. You're just creating another step for me. But
interesting. I will consider that.
This is why it's valuable that we talk about.
Well, I mean, we're still, I'd say, like 2 months away from that, so I haven't even begun like researching and having customer convos. We just know that it's like a pain point inside the app that we want to go revisit.
What other customers do you need to have a convo with? You're having a convo with everybody. Your number 1 customer.
I'm sorry, Brandon.
Number 1
You're
customer.
not the only customer of InvestorFuse.
I feel like sometimes I am. I feel like the buck stops here. All right, I gotta get going. I gotta head up and take photos of a property. I haven't gone and take photos of a property in a very, 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 very long time. But it was a referral from somebody from 2 years ago that specifically wants to sell to me, and so we've already signed the contract, so I'm not wasting my time. But specifically wants me. So
that is the importance of building relationships.
Yeah, but now I gotta take, I don't know, 3 hours.
Drive up to my side of town.
I got to drive up to Apopka in the middle of the day to take photos for this old lady.
Don't take I-4 the whole way. Like you need to take 429.
429.
Yeah.
I ran these roads, bro. I run these streets. You know what I'm saying? It's been a while. I haven't done business when I worked for the hedge funds in like 2012 to like whatever 15 that I was doing all
Yeah.
that hedge fund stuff. That was my market. I was selling them all the deals up in Orlando and
Were you
stuff as a
still in
realtor.
Lakeland at the time? Have you
Yeah,
always been in Lakeland?
bro. I've always been in Lakeland. I
Okay.
was their one agent who did all of their rentals and handled their rehab management and stuff around the Orlando. Like I sold them deals from Tampa all the way over to Orlando. I was driving everywhere. So like I was on the road from morning till night from 4 a.m. to 8 p.m. was my work schedule. But
Hell no.
Apopka, because all the best deals were in like Apopka, Pine Hills, like we were just buying up all the Orlando deals and then I
Yeah.
rent them out for them, Davenport. So I was all up and down the 27, 429, 441,
Yeah.
like all of that stuff. But yeah, so I haven't been up there in so many years. I'm sure
Oh,
it's crazy. All up and down when I started, 429 all up and down, all
nothing.
grass. It was
Yeah,
all
yeah.
grass.
It's all like
Yeah,
apartments and single
yeah.
family and
I
like
remember I went
shopping
up there like
complexes
a
now.
year or two ago to hit 192, and I was like,
The
"Fuck
hell is
did
all
these
this crap?
hotels and apartments come from? This was all fields." Yeah, so I'm dying to see what it looks like now.
And there's a bunch more like there's 427 now. There's like a
Oh,
bunch of
is
roads
there?
up there too
Oh,
that they
great.
built off of
I'll let my
429.
I'll let my GPS handle that,
Yeah.
bro. But anyway, I'm gonna go up there, snap some photos, JVing with
Taking the
somebody who's
dog?
got a buyer for it. No, I'm not taking the dog.
Oh,
I'll leave her here.
I miss the videos of you going around and the
I
dog's
know.
always
Well,
in the car.
that's when I do flips. I can't bring my dog into somebody else's property for photos,
It's true.
And then that'd
It's
be
true.
she's just sitting in the car. But she goes with me to my rehabs or to anything like that.
Yeah.
But all right, well, this was good, man.
Yeah.
This was good.
Carlos, we missed you. Have fun in Phoenix. Get home safe.
We'll see y'all next time.
Have fun driving around Orlando.
Lock and load.
Peace.